Welcome back to Who Is on Magic Untapped. I am Barry White. You know, Dominaria's Brothers War, like most conflicts, does not just involve those immediately in the war. And that was certainly the case when it comes to an archaeologist and glaciologist named Feldon.
Who is it?
Who is this?
Who is it?
Who is this?
Who is it?
Born at the foot of the Rhonam Glacier on the continent of Tertiaire, Feldon found he had a fancy for archaeology. While exploring the nearby glacier, he discovered a number of artifacts, most notably a metallic cane and a piece of pottery that would become known as the Golgothian Silex. Once Feldon grew into early adulthood, conflict swept the land as the war between the artificer brothers, Urza and Mishra, continued to escalate. The mage and a contingent of others decided not to align themselves with either brother's interest, forming a third path. The third path took up a position in the enlightened city of Tertia City, as they hoped to find a way to defeat, or at least withstand long-term, the brothers' strife. It's here that Feldon met and fell in love with a scholar within the group named Lauren. Tertia City was found to be a very welcoming place as people of all cultures flocked there to escape the chaos elsewhere, or, in the case of a hand-selected few, infiltrate. Thanks to the Archmandrite of Tertia City's Ivory Tower not recognizing their affiliation, the Brotherhood of Gix was invited to join the city's Council of Mages, a mistake that would prove disastrous not just for the city, but for the third path as well. The betrayal of Gix's followers was absolute. With assistance from the Brotherhood, a battalion of juggernauts and dragon engines led by Mishra's second-in-command, Ashnod, sacked and destroyed Tertia City. Despite the devastation and constant assault from the war machines, one of the mages who founded the third path, a woman known as Hercule, conjured a spell that vaporized 3 of the attacking dragon engines. Although she perished shortly after, her efforts allowed many of the third path to flee from Tertia City. This included Feldon and his lover, Lauren, along with a handful of important artifacts, as they began to make their way up to Feldon's childhood home at the foot of the Rhonam Glacier. Lauren, who was carrying the ancient Golgothian Silex as the pair fled the chaos, however, found herself separated from Feldon. She was captured and interrogated by Ashnod, the Silex confiscated. Eventually, the scholar managed to escape, albeit without the powerful artifact that now resides with Mishra's forces. She then manages to travel up to the Rhonam Glacier, whereupon she was finally reunited with Feldon. The two lived happily in a small cottage and frequently visited the nearby glacier. It was on one of these trips to the edge of Rhonam that the Golgothian Silex blast occurred. Sensing the war over, Lauren locked a tired gaze with Feldon. Good, was all she said about it. In the 10 years that followed Urza's war-ending blast, Lauren deteriorated. Between the changing climate and injuries sustained while being held prisoner by Ashnod years prior, she eventually passed away. Mad with grief, Feldon found himself in the workshop, poring over Lauren's various books on artifice. After months of feverish work, he was finished creating a true-to-life copy of his late love. Only, it wasn't her. It was simply an automation. Realizing that it just wasn't the same as having her there with him, he removed the power stone that gave his creation life and placed the now dormant automation beside Lauren's grave as a statue. But, still missing his late wife, Feldon traveled the continent seeking magic that could bring her back. He first came upon a hedge wizard, a crazy hermit living in some ruins, but his green magic had no effect on the dead. The wizard suggested to Feldon that he travel to Rhonam Lake and speak with a sorceress living there. Unfortunately, the sorceress's blue magic was only capable of creating an illusion of Lauren. She sent Feldon to a nearby swamp to speak with a black wizard living there. The man promised to teach Feldon a spell that would bring his wife back, but only in exchange for his ancient cane. Feldon agreed, but after having learned the spell, soon discovered that all he had done was create a zombified version of his late love. Disgusted, the archaeologist unsummoned the aberration. Still determined to see Lauren once more, Feldon visited a scholar of white magics. Here, the archaeologist learned magic that could, at the very least, summon a magical copy of a person rather than bring a person back from the dead. Back home at his cottage, Feldon gathered all of his memories of his lost love, then performed the magic the scholar had taught him. He then, finally, was able to gaze at Lauren's face once again. With all of the love in his heart, the aged archaeologist said a proper goodbye, then let the summoned simulacrum go. Feeling free from grief for the first time in years, Feldon lived out the rest of his days in happiness. Late in life, Feldon opened up his library to all of Tertiaire as magical research was in its infancy at the time, and he wanted the knowledge that he and Lauren had gathered to flourish. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Who Is on Magic Untapped. Please come back again next month to look at another of the Brothers War characters as we count down towards the November release of the Brothers War set for Magic the Gathering. And if you like this content, please subscribe to us here on YouTube and toss a buck in our tip jar on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching.